Imagine a world of knights and chivalry, a time when honor and bravery were the highest virtues and the clash of swords echoed through the valleys. This was the age of medieval castles, the mighty fortresses of stone and timber that stood as symbols of power and protection. Picture towering castles, stark against the sky, their tall spires reaching toward the heavens, casting long shadows over the lands they protected. These castles were marvels of engineering, designed to be both beautiful and formidable. These were not just homes, they were fortresses. Massive stone walls and battlements provided defense against invaders. From the air, these castles looked like impenetrable strongholds designed to withstand the test of time and conflict. Medieval castles were centers of power. They dominated the landscape, often built on high ground to survey the surrounding area. From these vantage points, lords and kings could control their territories and protect their people. They were a symbol of authority in a turbulent age. The sight of a castle's flags flying high above its towers was a reminder of the lord's power and the protection he offered to his subjects. Castles were built for defense with thick walls and high towers. They could withstand attacks. Moats and drawbridges added extra layers of security, making it difficult for enemies to breach their defenses. They provided refuge for those who lived within their walls. During times of siege, the castle's courtyard would be filled with people seeking safety, relying on the fortress's strength to protect them from harm. Life in a medieval castle was different for everyone. From the bustling courtyards filled with merchants and craftsmen to the quiet chambers where nobles plotted their next move, each person had a role to play in the castle's ecosystem. Nobles enjoyed luxury and power. They dined in grand halls surrounded by opulence and engaged in leisure activities that showcased their wealth and status. Commoners worked hard to support them. In the kitchens, fields and workshops, they toiled to ensure the smooth running of the castle and the comfort of its inhabitants. These fortresses were more than just stone and wood. They were masterpieces of architecture, combining functionality with artistry. Every stone, every timber was placed with purpose, creating structures that have stood the test of time. They were the heart of medieval society. The castle was the center of life, where people gathered for protection, trade, and community events. It was a place where decisions were made and lives were shaped. They were places of great importance. From hosting grand events to serving as marketplaces, castles were the hubs of activity and the focal points of their regions. They played a vital role in shaping the course of history. These mighty fortresses of stone and timber were not just buildings, they were the epicenters of power, culture, and society in the medieval world. The layout of a medieval castle was a masterpiece of defense. These fortresses were designed with meticulous attention to detail, ensuring that every aspect served a purpose in protecting its inhabitants. High walls, called curtain walls, enclosed a central courtyard. These walls were often several feet thick, making them nearly impenetrable to enemy forces. Towers, strategically placed, provided flanking fire against attackers. These towers were equipped with arrow slits and other defensive mechanisms, allowing defenders to repel invaders effectively. The most important part of the castle was the keep. This central tower was the last line of defense and the residence of the lord. This was the strongest tower. Its thick walls and elevated position made it a formidable stronghold. It was the last refuge during an attack. When all other defenses failed, the inhabitants would retreat to the keep, where they could hold out for extended periods. Inside the keep, you would find the Great Hall. This was a grand space where the lord and his family lived and conducted their daily affairs. This was the heart of the castle. The Great Hall was not only a living space, but also a place for important gatherings and ceremonies. This grand space was where the lord held court. Here he would meet with his vassals, dispense justice, and manage the affairs of his domain. Feasts and celebrations took place here. These events were lavish affairs, showcasing the wealth and power of the lord. It was a place of gathering and community for the castle's inhabitants. The Great Hall served as a social hub, bringing people together for various activities. Bedrooms, kitchens, and storerooms were also within the castle walls. These spaces were essential for the daily life and functioning of the castle. Life in a castle was self-sufficient. The inhabitants relied on the resources within the walls to sustain themselves. Everything needed for daily life was produced or stored within its walls. From food to weapons, the castle was a self-contained world capable of withstanding long sieges. The lord of the castle was the most powerful person. He was responsible for the safety and well-being of everyone who lived there. He was a warrior, a judge, and a leader. He spent his days managing his estate, training for battle, and dispensing justice. The lady of the castle was equally important. She managed the household. She was responsible for the food, clothing, and healthcare of everyone within the castle walls. She also played a vital role in diplomacy, often acting as a mediator between her husband and other nobles. Together, the lord and lady ruled their domain. Their lives were a mix of duty, responsibility, and the privileges of their rank. Life for the nobles wasn't all work and war. They enjoyed many leisure activities. Feasts were a common occurrence. They were lavish affairs. Tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, fresh bread, and sweet treats. Hunting was another popular pastime. Lords and ladies would ride out with their falcons, pursuing game in the surrounding forests. Falconry was a skill, a sport, and a status symbol. In the evenings, entertainment might include music, dancing, or storytelling. Chess and backgammon were popular games. Life for the nobility had its comforts and pleasures. Section 5. The hum of activity, servants and workers. A medieval castle was a hive of activity. Servants worked tirelessly to keep the castle running smoothly. Cooks prepared meals, maids cleaned and maintained the rooms, and stable hands cared for the horses. Skilled craftsmen also played a vital role. Blacksmiths forged weapons and armor, carpenters repaired furniture and built structures, and seamstresses created clothing. These individuals were essential to the daily operation of the castle. Their work was demanding, but they were an integral part of the castle community. Their skills and labor supported the lives of everyone within the castle walls. Section 6, from hovel to garrison, the lives of commoners. Life for commoners was very different from that of the nobles. While the nobles enjoyed luxuries and grand feasts, commoners toiled daily to ensure their survival. Their days were filled with hard labor from dawn till dusk, with little respite. They lived in simple dwellings, often within the castle's outer walls. These homes were typically made of wattle and daub, with thatched roofs that offered little protection against the elements. Inside, the furnishings were sparse, with only the most basic necessities. They worked the land, farmed crops, and tended livestock. Their agricultural practices were rudimentary, relying on tools that had changed little over centuries. The success of their harvests was crucial, as it determined their ability to feed their families and pay taxes to their lord. Their lives were governed by the seasons and the demands of their feudal lord. Each season brought its own set of tasks and challenges, from planting in the spring to harvesting in the fall. The feudal lord's demands could be harsh, often requiring additional labor or taxes. In times of peace, they provided food and services to the castle. This included not only agricultural produce, but also skilled labor, such as blacksmithing, weaving, and carpentry. These services were essential for the maintenance and functioning of the castle. In times of war, they served as soldiers, defending the castle walls alongside the lord's men-at-arms. Despite their lack of formal training, these commoners were expected to fight bravely, often with little more than basic weapons and makeshift armor. Their lives were hard, but they were a vital part of the feudal system. Without their labor and sacrifices, the entire structure of medieval society would have crumbled. Their resilience and determination were the backbone of their communities. Their existence was intertwined with that of the castle, their fates bound to the whims of war and the decisions of their lord. The prosperity of the castle often mirrored the well-being of the village, and vice versa. In this symbiotic relationship, the fortunes of the commoners and the nobility were inextricably linked. Section 7. When the trumpets sound, the castle under siege. Castles were built to withstand attack. During a siege, life inside the castle walls changed dramatically. The drawbridge would be raised, the portcullis lowered, and the defenders would prepare for a prolonged siege. Food and water would be rationed. Soldiers would man the walls day and night. Archers would rain arrows down upon the enemy. If the siege was long, disease and starvation could become as dangerous as any enemy weapon. Life under siege was a desperate struggle for survival. The castle's defenses were tested, and the courage and resilience of its inhabitants were pushed to the limit. Section 8 echoes of the past medieval castles in our imagination. Medieval castles continue to capture our imaginations. They are places of mystery and romance. We see them in movies, read about them in books, and visit them on our travels. They evoke a sense of wonder and awe, but it's important to remember that these castles were not fairy tale settings. They were real places where real people lived, worked, and fought for survival. Their stories, both grand and humble, are etched into their very stones. By understanding the realities of medieval castle life, we gain a deeper appreciation for this fascinating period of history. Section 9. A final word from the past. The next time you see a medieval castle, let your imagination soar. Imagine the clash of steel, the bustle of daily life, and the stories whispered within its ancient walls. The medieval world may be long gone, but its legacy lives on in these enduring fortresses of stone and timber. Did you know that some castles had secret passages? These passages were used for escape or to move around unseen. Imagine the secrets those walls could tell if